Bangalore. For today's distinguished lecture, we have with us Professor Bhaskar Venugopalan, technology enthusiast from Bangalore. Professor Bhaskar will be sharing significant points of knowledge in the domain of data science from his rich experience in this field. For the last 3 decades, he has led various technologists, architects, and multinational companies excelling in data science. Sir, on behalf of Dhananjay Sagar University and BITES, I welcome you to this session and thank you for giving us this opportunity to hear from you. I take this opportunity to welcome Dr. K.N.B. Murthy, Chairman, BITES, and Honorable Vice Chancellor, DSU. He has been providing us with these opportunities to hear from learned people and helping us grow intellectually every day. I welcome Sri M.N. Vidyashankar, Co-Chairman, BITES, and Professor Arvind Srinivas to this session. I also welcome Dr. Puttamadappa, Registrar, DSU, Dr. A. Srinivas, Dean, School of Engineering, DSU, Dr. M. Shahina Parveen, Chairman, Computer Science and Technology, and all the faculty members and students to this session. I request Dr. Shahina Parveen to kindly introduce the speaker to the gathering.
Thank you, Mukti Madam. It's my immense pleasure to introduce our guest of speaker, Professor Bhaskar Venugopalan. Sir has 30 years of IT and 10 years of senior leadership experience with major technology service companies, includes Fortune 500 servicing across industries around innovation, advanced technology development, consulting, delivery, business development, and account management across globe. Professor's strategic leadership skills have helped him build relationships, achieve goals, and work effectively with all types of stakeholders through the globe. Further, Professor Bhaskar has an extensive overseeing environment and technical background that allows him to validate technology solutions and work well with all stakeholders. He has experience in different environments with tons of hundreds of people, systems, and has built productive and loyal teams. He is good in arriving at business and technology digital transformation strategy and implementing the same as a good team builder with innovation culture and mentor. He has the expertise in leveraging distributed teams in solving customers' business problems with an effective ROI, resulting in delighted customers and partner organizations. Professor Bhaskar has masters from Indian Institute of Technology, Chennai, and he has various skills and expertise and excelled in the roles such as executive leadership, account CTO, innovation and incubation lead director, partner readiness, delivery unit, and then solution group head mentor, strategic advisor for startups and academia on industry readiness. Sir has also excelled in digital transformation strategy, CI/CD, agile methodologies, business process improvement, budgeting and forecasting. Sir has experience at various companies such as DXC Technology, where he has worked for 2011 to 2021. And also, Sir has worked as director at Microsoft India as a technology readiness director. And Sir has given various responsibilities where he has excelled in all at most possible way in different companies such as Tech Mahindra, Oracle, TCS India, and various other organizations. So, Sir, we are very fortunate to have you here and we welcome you to our DSU. And we are looking forward for your wonderful keynote speech. So I request you to take up the session and enlighten us with a piece of knowledge. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for being a part of us. I request you to take your session.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your presence. One second. Just let me know the moment I'll be able to.
Sure, sir. Please share your screen, sir. You can start your session.
I have shared. Are you able to see?
No, sir.
I will again share.
Imtiaz, sir, are you able to give permission to sir? Just a minute, sir.
Able to see now?
Yes, sir. Now it is visible, sir.
Okay. So the fault is my end, sorry. Okay.
Sir, you can put it in slideshow, sir.
Yeah. I'm just going. Able to see?
Yes, sir. It's clear, sir.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for a nice introduction, madam. Actually, I'm trying to share the point of views with respect to the data because data is the new oil. And even though it's a kind of a broader topic, when I was talking with Arvind and also Professor Murthy, we were just saying that, whether it's a broader topic, how we can try to bring in some kind of essence for people to get at least, some values out of this. So that is when I thought, everybody is talking about digital transformation, and digital transformation cannot happen without data. So it's going to be totally data-driven business everywhere. And people are now looking at how we can get value out of the data rather than just keeping it in a kind of, cold storage. And so in that angle, I thought this will be more apt. And also, another thing is we all went through hardships during the COVID times. And that has paved the way for new normals. When I say new normal, working from home, even support staff started working from home. And there are a lot of new normals that have kicked in during this 2021. So in that regard, there are a lot of digital acceleration which started and led to good amount of transitions across the industries, if I may say so. So that is why I thought I'll take this topic and then share the views. So first of all, thanks to Bytes giving me the opportunity to share my point of view around the data trends. Special thanks to Professor Murthy and Arvind as well. So now I will try to share kind of context and then what has gone up to 2021, a kind of a recap. Then I will touch upon the topics or the themes which are going to be or likely to be, from my point of view, as a focus in 2022 and going forward. I'm sure this will give some thoughts or provoking thoughts in your mind. If there's going to be students looking for exploring certain tools around those themes so that they get familiarized, which will really help them in shaping their career, as well as the esteemed faculties might help them in looking at what concepts and what kind of exposure and exploration can be part of the curriculum going forward or even in this semester. So with that, I just want to just share the introduction, which is, we all talked about data and then everybody's talking about, if I remember right, IDC is talking about in 2021 alone, closer to 50 zettabytes, which is, 10 to the power of 21. So just imagine, and it is likely to grow CAGR around 25 to 26% year on year. So how the things are going to be, it's everybody's guess. But people used to talk about BI, DW, lakes, and everything. Setting up on-prem was a nightmare. And the moment people started focusing on the cloud infrastructure, it started, getting the things that are needed in a jiffy. The sense that, it need not be months, it's going to be, a day or hours. depending on what the capacities that infrastructure should provide for the enterprise or the end users. So that way, there are a lot of innovation that has gone with respect to the infrastructure, which are supporting the lakes, DWs, and other kind of storages, and also how to do the integrations, everything. But beyond that, in the case of a data engineering per se, the innovations were kind of slightly at a lower pace compared to the applications. Why I'm trying to mention this, there are a lot of parallels out of software engineering is coming to data engineering. That is the reason now if you see this year and going forward, we can see a lot of tools, utilities, innovations around data engineering, which will be taking some of kind of mirroring the concepts that are already exploited and running in software engineering. Okay, with that, I just want to start what has gone so far till 2021. As I was mentioning earlier, that acceleration really started in 2020 because of a lot of new normals. And in 2021, it started getting into the transition phase. If you see the kind of McKinsey report with respect to the 2021, it says that closer to 57%, up from 45% in 2020, have at least one business unit have started leveraging AI. So that shows the kind of digital transformation as well as the data-driven business and getting some insights from the data, which is going to be the key for any enterprises in order to succeed in the market. So this is again a kind of a data point for you to just remember. So having said that, now if you see the modern data stack, if you see the data integration, event tracking, cloud BWs, transformations. So these are all the things with respect to the infrastructure which can up and running. But then if you see the data governance aspect, whether it is also in the same pace like the data infrastructure, the answer is 50-50 in my opinion, if you ask me. So that is where people started thinking how we can bring in the software engineering kind of concepts and try to improvise the data engineering activities and ML activities, AI activities going forward. And then if there are any other concepts which might really help in improving productivity further. So in the case of 2021, these are all the major use cases where the AI flourished. When I say AI, ML, but bottom line is the data. So if you see that service operations is the major functionality area, which has really got improvised because of the AI ML. I'm sure you are all aware the acquisition of new ones by Microsoft, which is leading to conversational AI. The second thing, ServiceNow having a tie-up with Amazon Connect. Amazon Connect is nothing but a kind of a virtual call center, might say, so that you get that call center up in hours. So that way, you don't have to really having a kind of dedicated infrastructure and all those things. But then when they try to do this provisioning, they were also trying to look at how we can get some kind of a productivity improvement. That is where there are some innovations. I will try to point out a couple of them. One is Amelia. Amelia is nothing but kind of a bot, but it has a face like a kind of an avatar. What it does, it is trying to learn from the logs, maybe kind of an IT operations, if I could say, and try to go through the logs, try to understand what are all the questions and what was the answer provided. And that way, if it is kind of similar, I'm talking about semantics or keyword search, based on that, the response could be taken by the Amelia and then respond back. So this was tried, and there is a debate going on whether it is going to replace or may or not replace. Of course, I'm of the view personally that mundane activities can replace. But if it is going to be something wherein you may have to strategize and select and try to provide those things to the task or activities, maybe that automation can take place. So the bottom line is that Amelia started getting in, believe it or not, if in case you are not aware, now you have digital IT experts available like Amelia. You can go and then hire. If you want, you can even interview. So that is a kind of an innovation and leveraging AI ML has happened in the case of a service operation and contact center automation. When I say automation, it is predominantly, you look at the logs and even you try to identify some of the user stories which can be taken by a chatbot, for example. Or it could be whether we can try to listen from the conversation and then automatically try to take the response provided in the chat. So that way it is going to be a channel agnostic. Also, some people are trying to explore right now. The second area where it got improvised further is in the product and service development. The moment you have a product, you're trying to do marketing, and you go to any sites right now, immediately there will be a pop-up, kind of a chat window that comes in, and then saying that, okay, thanks, welcome. You have any questions, we can chat. So what I'm trying to say is the chat really got into most of the product and service development. The third aspect which really got improvised in 2021 is marketing and sales, which is again, try to understand customer expectations and try to do a kind of a focused marketing. That started picking up more and more, and also helping the sales guys with respect to the funnel analysis effectively. The last but not the least, the risk, the fraud identification by the financial services industries predominantly started getting more and more kind of a mainstream and enabling a lot of end users from the enterprises to effectively manage their operations. So just to give you an idea, these are all the things from the functionality aspects that has really improvised. Now, let us also touch upon what else that has happened in 2020, 2021. I'm not sure whether you are all aware of the GPT-3, which is nothing but a kind of a language model. You should be aware Microsoft has Turing NLG model, okay? And the parameters that was used in that, if I remember right, closer to around 9 billion. But whereas this particular GPT-3 hit 10 times, so it is hitting, it is around 170 plus billion parameters that is being used in this GPT-3. This is part of Elon Musk and Sam and everybody. They started this. Of course, now Elon Musk has come out of it, and then he is now getting onto some other new area around AI. But then this particular thing started creating a lot of traction in 2021 on the experimentation phase. Like if you see the first one, which is talking about you just provide the natural language and to this Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Okay,
No.
sorry. I don't know. Suddenly I was thrown out.
Yeah, that's okay, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. So this example, what I was talking about is mimicking a website based on your input, what you need, and try to build a website in no time. Okay. So this is pretty interesting. And the third one, which I want to share, which will be interesting, is that you want to get some insights out of your data. So this particular thing is very good in bringing some charts. But of course, it is not a big deal. If you see that Power BI and even with the Excel, now you have certain things which can come up with its own inference on the data. Okay. So basically, the AI ML is going towards how they can provide something similar to the Excel functionalities. And this one, which is, creating a document or a blog by getting some basic informations, but plagiarism, how it is going to be handled, ethics around the AI, how it is going to be handled. Those are the questions that is lingering in my mind, and I'm sure you will also have the same. But this is going to give you a kind of a good starting point based on what you are thinking and what you are expecting, and this can put some contents for you. And this one is interesting, Ask Viable, which is going to analyze based on the data and then tell you the kind of a feedback that has been received from the customers. And it can give you a kind of a summary for executive stakeholders. So that way they can try to act or they can try to provide the feedback down the line. So acceleration we saw, transition it led to, and these are all the areas below that's becoming a focus, data skills. Enterprises now really investing huge amount of money on learning and development by getting the data culture and building the skills around the data. And also there is, of course, Professor Murthy was also alluding to the same thing when I met him last time, that shift left is happening. That industry is expecting the academia to get the skills embedded into the curriculum for the students, so that way they can be productive at the earliest possible once they join the enterprise. Augmented analytics, there are a lot of things that are happening, including Power BI or Tableaus. They're all providing a lot of things in this. Visualizations, here I just want to touch upon, there is one more skill that people are really looking about is the data-driven storytelling. IDE feature infrastructure, which we talked about, but this is getting extended up to the collaboration, which is going to be the key factor in data engineering. I don't know whether you know the pair programming, something similar to that what we have in software engineering. So people are really looking at how that could be also drawn parallelly into the data engineering. MLOps, believe it or not, this is going to be one of the metrics which will be used in measuring the enterprise maturity around digital transformation, as I have understood. External data is becoming more and more popular. Collaboration with different entities that are happening. And of course, people are trying to see how to monetize the data. And there are a lot of aspects that are happening, how to get the subscription enabled, how to make sure the data with the proper security, PIs, GDPRs taken care effectively. On the language models, which we talked about, that is also really getting into the production from the experiment phase. So the bottom line, 2022 beyond is likely to be more adoption. So now let me try to look at what all the themes or the topics which I feel likely to be a kind of focus in 22 and beyond. And I will also share some of the tools pertinent to this, indicative only, not full set of tools. And some may have open source, some may have free for some time, and some will have a community editions also. So that way you can try to play with and then try to see, depending on your interest in the areas. So the data catalog, everybody should be aware, the similarity is going to be the library. And earlier it is going to be IT teams which will be managing those data catalogs. Then it moved to the data stewards who will be in a position to come and then try to gather the information and create the catalogs. But now It is like industry revolutions. So this data catalog 3.0, that is what everybody is talking about, which is going to be a great, good user interface that you're going to have for the enterprise. And they can just see that, search it, which could be semantic search, need not be just, kind of a word search, and semantic search. And also you can view it, preview it, and then decide whether it is going to be a value add, and look at who has used, what is their feedback, something similar to the e-commerce, like we have the product catalogs, right? Just similar to that, just imagine like that. So that way it is going to be much easier for anybody to know about what the data set is, what it can provide, what kind of restrictions you will have in order to get access to, whether it is subscription or no subscription, or within enterprise it is free. So those are all the things that are expected and getting improvised with these features in the data catalog. That is what is going to be the key. For example, you have, this is again kind of a thing what we worked upon in the past, where I was part of this. You have a banking customer for whom we have already built the customer, and then how you can come up with a focused marketing. And the data is available. Now the bank has started collaborating with the insurance company, and they want to bring in the insurance products, or it could be some loan products. So earlier what used to be, or even now also to a certain extent in some enterprises, they will use their connects and contacts within the enterprise, and get some tribal knowledge if need to be. Based on that, they will. So because of that, what happens, there are a lot of data silos, and it is getting repeated also. So that is going to be avoided in this data catalog 3.0. And another example, I just want to see it. For example, cars or vehicles pass through a lot of signals or even tolls. And that is getting recorded, and that data which is available. So if a police department is trying to investigate a theft of a vehicle, then they can try to subscribe, because everything is coming under the government nodal agencies, and they can try to access that. So how they can access it, it's going to be a portal, and they see what data, and then what is the parameter, how to access it. So those are all the information already available. They just provide those information instead of going through email, talking to somebody. It's going to be one-stop shop for everything. And the same thing is being extended for external catalogs as well, that is getting available. So the data catalog 3.0 is going to be the first one, I feel, is the focus in 2022. So what this data is going to be having, this is nothing but the metadata. But we all know now the metadata has become big data, right? So the people, who is the source, who is taking care of it, that information. Search is going to be with the semantic, how easily it is searchable, and processing. So what kind of transformations it has gone through or it is likely to go through, and suppliers, whether it is going to be internal or external subscription related information. So if you see, it's self-explanatory, this picture, without data catalog and with catalog. So how you are going to really ease the kind of an end user agony in getting the right data without any problem within the enterprise. So this is point number one. Point number two is data observability. So we saw the process with respect to the data engineering. Let us assume a customer 360, I'm sure you are aware. If a call center executive is getting a call from a customer, they are going to have a window before them, which is going to provide that information about the customer. It will go to an extent of saying how that customer behaved last time. When I say behavior, the statistics is going to say whether you have to be very polite with that particular customer, how effectively you have to handle. So the past experience with the customers will give some tips to the customer care executives. And it is also supposed to expect some other additional information, like, for example, cross-marketing or cross-selling. That information has to come based on certain modeling, or it could be through APIs. What if that data pipeline got cut off, or it is still holding some of the old data? So drawing parallel with the software engineering, wherein you say uptime for an application, 99.99 whatever. Something similar to that, people are thinking of coming up with SLAs around data engineering. That is what is going to be the focus in 2022 and beyond. So that way, the consumers of the data can be peaceful and they can trust the data source because there is an agreement between the producer and the consumer, ensuring that the data availability is taken care. I will give you an example. If you see this diagram, data observability engine is having the 5 characteristics, which is something to the melt, if I may say so, for the application engineering. Melt is metrics, events, logs, trace. So that way, these are all the things that are being drawn parallel here and bringing in as a freshness. So the data is the recent one or not. Distribution. Is there a kind of a subscription involvement that is happening here? Volume. For example, usually there is going to be ETL process, which is going to get around, 10 million records. All of a sudden, one time they're just getting around 50 million records. So it got to be highlighted and seeing why there is a difference. And this check will be taken care by this observability engine. And then it will also, trigger a kind of an event to make sure everything is going good. Similarly, schema changes. This I just want to touch upon things. I don't know whether you have this NASA Mars orbiter story, wherein they just used a typical unit of measurements, SI to non-SI. But they have forgotten the unit of measurements in the downstream, and there were almost a kind of a crash kind of a scenario which got averted though. But what I'm trying to say is the schema changes should be reflected because there could be consumers of that particular data pertinent to that schema could be downward or upward. So that is another one, the lineage, which is going to talk about the data, what it has gone through, from where it has come in, what kind of relationships. So the bottom line, this observability is the second one, which is going to be the focus area going forward. And people are really looking at, because the data could be an on-prem, hybrid, cloud, multi-cloud. So you should be in a position to easily manage the integrations and still able to monitor with your observability engine. So having said that, I have to just share some of the tools which are focused in this. If you see this modern data stack, the bottom one, which is talking about governance, catalog, which is, Alation or Atlan or Stemma, is an indicative. Please understand this is only indicative. Data observability, Monte Carlo or Big Eye or even Datafold. So they're all focusing on this, and the consolidation and also the maturity going forward in ensuring more and more features that are incorporated is going to be the focus 22 and beyond. So we have seen 2 so far, data catalog and data observability. The third one is synthetic data. Everybody is aware a kind of a phrase, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So if your data is not good, you have a problem. I'll give you a small example. We were working on for one of our customers, and this is related to the healthcare industry readmissions. The hospitals will be trying to look at how to reduce the readmissions because the brand value that they will be looking at, and also there are a lot of parameters around the readmissions which will really bring them down, kind of. So how to reduce the readmissions, and they try to analyze a lot of data, and they found the predominant area of concerns are once the patients get discharged, they go back home, the instructions that are supposed to be followed by the patients, that is where the maximum problems happen based on the statistics. This is not, I'm saying, this is what the statistics say, and the interactions I had with some of the healthcare institutes, this is what I learned. So they started looking at how to get this data and try to see to that, improvise that particular model and try to see how we can effectively reduce the readmissions. In order to do that, the data, which was the live data, which was in hundreds or whatever, they couldn't because they were looking at, we went to an extent of remote monitoring, having a device attached to the patient, how we can get some kind of a vital parameters, all those things tried. But then the data volume was not sufficient. The accuracy was around 60% of, I think 55 or whatever. But then we started looking at the randomizing. The problem in randomizing is it may not be really looking at the real data and trying to look at knocking off the PIIs, maybe the GDPR acts or CCPA based on the California acts. All those things cannot be taken care. That is where the synthetic data, which is leveraging AI in building the synthetic data. And you all aware, Amazon Go, recently they started hitting the suburban areas also around Seattle, and they have acquired a major company called Whole Foods, which they want to bring in their technology into that. So that way, they are going to be, as long as you're an Amazon Prime member, you're good to go into the shop. Maybe, you try to use your gestures with your hands, or which could be based on your, what to say, that face. That way you can try to get in and try to do what you want with respect to the shopping. But there also, they relied upon synthetic data. And Waymo, Google entity, as you're all aware, they have to create a mock city so that they are in a position to take care of, automatic, self-driven automobiles, how it can be done. Because the lessons learned with the Uber, right, in Arizona crash, we are all aware of it. So this synthetic data, which is going to be generating the data based on the real data, taking care of PIIs, GDPRs and everything. So that way, the model performance and accuracy could be better. So just want to touch upon what Gartner says. Gartner is talking about by 2030, future AIs, which is going to be leveraging more on synthetic data. But then it cannot be only synthetic data. Please do remember, it got to be live data plus this. And we are all talking about drones getting more and more nowadays. And they are all talking about, even going to the areas wherein, the agricultural areas, they get the pictures, they try to see to that how it can be provided to the centralized servers and get some input back. But again, there also your volume of data is going to be a problem. And people are really looking at how this synthetic data generations could be better leveraged. And these are all the tools that are available: Datamyze, Better Data, Medclone. So this is another area which is really, really getting focused in 2022 beyond. And that will be more interesting to watch around the innovations in this. So we talked about data catalog, we talked about observability, then followed by synthetic data. So we all got the data. Then what happens? The data scientists, they try to look at the data, evaluate the data set, features, and then try to run a model or evaluate in different models and then try to come up with. But bottom line, so far, whatever activities that they are doing, if they do it siloed, it's going to be a problem. The parameters I just want to talk about here onto the right-hand side on red, 87% of the data science projects make it into production. And the average tenure of data scientists is closer to 2.5 years. And employment and demand for data science is going to be 30%. Why I'm giving all this? These are all the challenges that enterprises are facing today. How that could be tackled. Based on the analysis, they found out the data scientists test and then make sure the experiment is okay. But then before it gets into the production, the enterprise or the business users, they are not in totally tandem with the thoughts process, whatever that is going through in scientist's mind. That is a gap, which they want to look at in taking care of through this collaborative workspace. Okay, so for example, I just want to give a small example. This can even trigger some new thoughts. Like, with respect to the data, you have descriptive, predictive, preventive, prescriptive, right? So we were trying to come up with a dashboard using Power BI and then sharing it with a customer. And the customer was trying to look at, okay, this is pretty good, but can we try to look at, what is going to be few months down the line? So then we tried to extend it. Then we found out there are certain technology skills that they were looking at. It was not always needed. It was looked as the need only during the month end, maybe for a week. So they try to look at, for the next year budgeting, even the current year budget constraints, how they can overcome. This input really helped them a lot. The bottom line is the collaboration. So the moment we come up with the dashboard, we just share it with the business users, and then they are also part of the team. It is something similar to the agile that you have in the software engineering, wherein you have a kind of multidisciplinary team who are part and parcel of this particular exercise, right? So in order to do that, you should have a collaborative workspace, which could be starting point with an IDE. And also, you create the workspace. You try to share only to those people saying that, I have created a chart. This is a kind of a code. This is a kind of a data. So how that could be validated by the business users, and you get their buy-in then and there. So that way you can try to reduce it. Then coming to the second problem, if some junior data scientists come in, the knowledge transfer, how effectively that could be managed, because you're going to have more people who are aware of the model, what it is, what it can be done and all. So that way, even if one person goes off, you have others who can try to take care of it. Of course, you have good documentations and everything can take care, and even automation exercises can try to bring down this kind of challenges further. But this is one collaboration which is going to really help in this particular aspect. Okay, and the tools that are available in taking care of this, data lore is good, data camp, which is really upcoming right now, and the board. Okay, so we have seen so far data catalog, observability, synthetic data, and the collaboration with respect to the data science. Now, we touched upon the data scientist trying to do certain activities. So what are the activities he or she does? Identify the business problem and what is expected out of this. And then try to collect the data, and then try to label the data. And then they have to go and then do the evaluation criteria, split it maybe 70-30 or 80-20, extracting the features, train the models, analyze the model outcomes, and deploy the model. Okay, so these are all the activities that are taken care by a typical data scientist. And if you see the H2O or data robots or AutoCaras, what they are trying to do is they're trying to see where we can try to automate. So that way, the kind of focus and productivity of the data scientists will be better utilized. And this is also going to take care of certain challenges in making sure that data scientist's job is enjoyable. They should not be trying to work on something, trying to get this model, try to work on what is the thing, whether it is okay, I will try some other model, try to look on, extract the features. So all these things is going to be a problem. And another thing is also, if there is a new model coming into the market, or maybe they have come up with new model, they want to test it out, their focus and attention is going to be on that. Existing models running in productions, the focus, everything is going to be taking a beating. So in order to take care of this auto ML comes in. If you see this dotted line, which is covered the below ones, which are taken care by this auto ML tools and utilities like H2O, data robots, AutoCaras. This is really helping a lot. I just want to draw a parallel here. We were trying to do a project with respect to the fault detection on maybe process manufacturing. It could be a kind of a stainless steel sheet, or it could be a bearing, for example. And so how do you find the defects? You have to get the data enough which are defect and what kind of defects, where it is, what not, and then the model will learn it, and you try to get that actual bearing which are coming out of production, go through this and then compare and try to come up with a kind of if there is any kind of a deviation, right, or anomalies, whatever. this happens, what happens is if it is going to be a number of defects you have identified, okay, fine. But then some defects which may appear new. So you may have to again go through this procedures process. Definitely this auto ML is going to reduce the workload, unnecessary workload on the data scientist. This also happened, in fact, we were trying to look at how we can use the computer vision in a vending machine. For example, inventory replenishment in the vending machine. What if it happens based on what is needed rather than bringing everything and then seeing the vending machine, what is there, what is not there. So this computer vision started working on and trying to see that, okay, these are all the items to be replenished based on the dispenser and the image taken out of the dispensed item. But what happens was the vendor who were trying to replenish the items, their end customers, they started providing different shapes. So what happens, this particular computer vision algorithm started providing some kind of a vague answers, which was really problematic. So again, they have to go through the hassle. So bottom line, this auto ML really, that ML workflow, it is going to automate and give rise to good productivity improvements for the data scientist. So we have seen so far data catalog, observability, synthetic data, collaboration workspace, and auto ML. Now we have to extend that auto ML further into ML ops, which is nothing but machine learning operation wherein you have data engineer, you have the data scientist, and you have ML engineers. So how all can collaborate without any difficulty and problem. This is something similar to the DevOps, what is there in the software engineering. So this ML ops, it is already there. As I was mentioning earlier, the maturity around this digital transformation for any enterprise, they keep this as one of the metrics, prime metrics. So if you see this, these are all the activities that is, exploratory data analysis, feature engineering, model training, tuning, leading to the deployment. So this is effectively taking the whole activities pertinent to right from data engineers, data scientists, ML engineers, down to the production guys who are managing and maintaining it. So this is nothing but the transparency across. This is very much needed right now. Like for example, even if you're looking at something around customer 360, which is really good. And this will pave the lot of unnecessary problems. And also there are good improvements that are happening with respect to, I would say, if some of the electronics engineers, if they are on this particular session, that will be of their interest. Tiny ML, which is really picking up. This is again using the TF lights, TensorFlow lights. I just want to share some of that information around that. For example, if you have a turbine and you have a small device, kind of an IoT device, if I may say so, that will be sticked onto that particular turbine, and it will be really getting the vital statistics of the turbine. If there is going to be a slight deviation or anomaly from the regular characteristics that are expected out of the turbine, then automatically the data is triggered through an event. It's going to be challenging, right? Because everybody is used to GPUs, CPUs. Now we are talking about milliwatts and microwatts. How it is going to be possible? So you have to come up with some of the algorithms which are effectively in a position to run in an embedded system, right? The tiny ML. So that is really getting into a lot of enterprise focus, and that may give a lot of innovations around auto ML as well as ML ops. The second example, I'm not sure whether you are all aware of it. This is a Pondicherry person who has come up with a Scholar Scared mosquito, which is a device, right? And which can float on kind of a stagnant water, which will be measuring or checking out the water characteristics, which will be suitable for breeding for mosquitoes. Then it is supposed to be rotating and then making sure there are a lot of bubbles, and then the breeding could be effectively reduced. Now they have gone one level above. They have started having a sensor on top of this device, to listen the noise made by the wings of the mosquito. And they are able to identify the mosquito, whether it is a female or a male, whether this is pertinent to the dengue or malaria or nothing to worry about. So accordingly, they will try to make sure, verify, validate, and provide the data. If I remember right, they're using LoRaWANs in order to share that information through LoRaWAN network. And that can be utilized by the respective cities and decide whether they are likely to get something, mosquito diseases. If so, how they can try to plan and prevent in advance. So that is pretty interesting. Again, this is an embedded device which is really getting into this. And some people are really looking at how to take care of the wind turbines, which is again in a remote place, how that could be taken care effectively. And in today's paper also, if I remember it, I saw Synapsco, which is trying to see to that radiologists, which are 1:1 lakh, if I remember right. Maybe, don't quote me if this number is wrong. I'm thinking aloud here. So how you can try to look at some of the parameters which are normal, and that way this particular models can evaluate and provide these basic informations to the radiologists. So that way radiologists will not miss even some of the basic informations, because they will be left with only few maybe minutes to look at each and every case, right? So how that could augment and enable, that is what is being looked at. So effectively, in order to do this, you might be training with new sets. There could be some changes, and maybe based on the version control, you may try to deploy how that could be even pushed to this kind of embedded systems effectively. I don't know, maybe something like OTA that they can try to come up with. So those are all the things which are really coming up. So bottom line, this AutoML, ML ops around TinyML and embedded systems is picking up the steam right now. So that is another area I would strongly urge you everybody to just look at and then see to that, depending on your interest, you can try to explore and then try to do some experiments if need arises. So these are all the tools that are available with respect to the ML ops. You don't have to mention with respect to the Google or Microsoft Azure or Amazon. They all have the platform which is available in the cloud, right? So far we have talked about catalog, observability. Then next we talked about synthetic data, collaborative workspace, AutoML, ML ops. Then comes an interesting area, which is NLP. As we talked about earlier or discussed earlier, the GPT-3, that is going to create a lot of changes or challenges within this NLP arena. If you see this, Microsoft already in Power BI, they used to have NLG, as I was mentioning, Turing NLG that they had, but the kind of parameters were very far less compared to what GPT-3 provides. So you can try to provide something in a typical general language, then automatically Power BI will come up with the response using this Turing NLG model pertinent to what you are looking at. Now with this GPT-3, they have a tie-up with the OpenAI, so they are able to provide further enhancements to this, wherein the DAX, which is nothing but the queries or access queries, dynamic access expressions that are really being used in the Power BI, how that could be leveraged effectively by using this NLP models. That is really making a huge change. This is also going to look at a lot of automations, be it services or products, and also the contact centers, which can further improvise, because there is going to be conversational AI. Based on that, they can try to leverage this language model, which will add a lot of fuel to the fire around the innovations in these areas. And I just want to touch upon three things here. Copilot. This is part of the GitHub, Microsoft GitHub. So the Copilot, which is going to help you in trying to get some basic information, and it is going to provide the remaining codes based on what it has learned. Maybe, going to a lot of GitHub repos, GitLab repos and everything. Second thing is the codex. Still I remember in 80s, where we used to understand the basic language programming, build a small games, something similar to this codex, which is really helping you to build a game in no time. That's really, I played with it and it is really enjoyable. And this can give rise to different low code, no code platforms leveraging this language models. Of course, you can, there are some charges, subscriptions, and everything is part and parcel of it. Maybe if there is a good partnership that is there with Microsoft, if institutes are having, or tie-ups with respect to some of the engagements, then that might give rise to some access to these resources. This Replit, which is interesting. People who are aware of with respect to the IT support, you will have to look at some of the codes built by somebody else who are not even in the system right now, right? So how you are going to handle this? Replit is working on taking the snippet, code snippet, and then it is going to provide that information about what it is doing. You know what I'm saying? So that way it is going to be effective. But of course, whether it is trying to do like, for IMS DBDC or kicks, not like that. I'm talking about something like Python, which is, this generation languages. So that is really becoming popular. So that way you can try to understand what that particular code snippet is doing, which is really good. Maybe you go to the GitHub repo and then try to get something which you have, you fork it, or you just get it into your thing and then try to work on it. Before that, you want to understand Python codes, what it is supposed to be doing. Just you can use the Replit and then try to understand what is what, which is pretty interesting. Now, this leads to the responsible AI. So I just want to draw a small example. I hope we are all okay on time. In case I'm taking too much time, please someone, caution me. So this one with respect to marketing. They said, depending on the customer who are getting into the shop, supposed to be providing some advertisements in the screen before them when they just get into the grocery store, or it could be any kind of a store. We said, okay, we can do the project, and we did it. And it worked. Believe it or not, what is the biggest mistake that we did? We didn't really look at some of the kind of textures around the skin, which really get into a lot of problems. So we have to really look at how you can get a lot of data, irrespective of, races, whatever you get, and then train it, then it is going to work. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. I'm sure you are all aware that, Amazon scrapped AI recruiting assistant because of a lot of biasing that it, give rise to. And it was a problematic situation for Amazon. So they just abolished that. So the problem behind is the responsible AI. What is responsible AI? If you see this characteristics of responsible AI, explainable. That means the model gives rise to accuracy. What is that? How it has arrived at. So it got to provide the kind of an information about how this model arrived at this result. Explainable. Monitorable. Reproducible. This is again a very important thing. Saying that, if somebody is saying this model is not working, you are in a position to reproduce it so that you are able to find what is the problem. Secure, human-centered. Again, part of design thinking drawn parallel here. So you have to make sure it is human-centric, whatever that you are looking at. Unbiased, justifiable. The bottom line here is it is kind of a governance committee coming up with the guidelines, practices which are supposed to be taken care. And maybe you can try to draw something parallel from Microsoft, Google, or PwC toolkit also provides certain information. There are certain guys like Flowcast, they focus only on financial services. So they try to verticalize this responsible AI. That is also picking up the steam right now. So this responsible AI, talking about explainable and reproducible in a secure, monitorable way, is picking up more steam. The moment you get into IoT, how this is going to be impacting, we have to see. So that is also, again, another area which might be of interest towards the embedded systems and TinyML. The last one I want to touch upon. This is again a concept driven from software engineering called microservices. So let us try to look at a situation like this. You have a company which is running maybe a kind of a manufacturing company, and there is going to be a purchase department. There is going to be something, the order comes and then you may have to fulfill it. So these are all silos, and everything is going to be in one data lake or data warehouse. All the data will be available there. And people have to really look at what they want, how to get it, and then try to do some inferences. And remember, these are all the data with some features, with some labeling, taken care by data scientists, provided they have done it with the good collaboration of the business stakeholders. If not, that is going to be another challenge, right? So here, the microservices coming into picture, thought trucks. So that person, they have come up with a new concept called data mesh. What it is talking about, instead of having a data lake or data warehouse or whatever it is, why can't we try to have it with respect to the domain? There's nothing but domain-driven decision or domain-driven design. Now they have extended to domain-driven data design. So that means you are going to be having something like a procure to pay. I'm giving an example, okay? Procure to pay, this is SAP terminology, or order to cash. So that means you are going to take care of this interdisciplinary functionalities, ensuring the data which is going to be smooth and it is available. And this interfunctional or interdisciplinary functional group will manage the data when it is going to be more futuristic and more easily manageable and meaningful. Why? Because now digital transformation, every enterprise is looking at value out of data. So how that can be done, democratization of this data across the enterprise with respect to these functionalities or with respect to the process interdisciplinary functionalities. That way, the ownership and accountability of the data, security, and also the freshness of the data will be lying with the respective business. When I say business unit, it is not a business unit because it can cut across. Or there is another way of looking at it. Like, for example, if it's a streaming company, they try to have podcast, which is going to be the new division that they start off. So they can have all the podcasts related, including customers and everything is going to be maintained, managed by the business unit. And anybody wants to, they can try to come and then ask for that through their catalog. What is the advantage? If somebody wants the data, they can try to bring in the flavor of Docker or Kubernetes and then see to that how they can easily access to this. But still, the control and management of that particular data will be with the business stakeholders of that particular domain or subdomain. This is really picking up. This is a concept and people are really looking at how to leverage it. There are people trying to extend it, saying data lake or data warehouse, till the concept exists, but we will bring in the nodal concept. So that way, there will be multiple nodes and each and every node will act like a sub data lake or a data warehouse. So this is another new concept which is picking up. I have given some of the references here, which you can try to go through and maybe try to see to that if it is of your interest, you can try to focus further and get some more literature around and try to see how that could be leveraged. In fact, Netflix, they are leveraging it, and even Azure is also trying to look at it. Amazon already coming up with some kind of reference architecture around this. So the people are really looking at this, how this could be taken effectively to the next level. So bottom line, data governance area, data catalog and data observability, productivity improvement, synthetic data, collaboration workspace, auto ML, MLOps and NLP, practices around responsible AI and data mesh. These are all the core focus areas likely to be going forward. And I would strongly urge you to think in these areas, depending on your interest, look at the references and try to explore the tools. And even, if there are some interesting areas of research, I would be, strongly recommending look into these areas, which are going to be the future trends. With that, thank you very much. And I'm ready for questions if there are any. Is it okay, ma'am? Am I on time?
Yes. For your informative session.
Hello?
Transition.
Mukti ma'am, you are not audible.
I'm not audible. Just a minute.
So was it okay?
Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am. You are.
All right. So thank you, sir, for your talk on the second valuable oil of the digital age, as we have rightly called data to be. And we also listened through the transition, as you had rightly also mentioned it, to be starting from acceleration in 2020 to transition and to adoption further in 2022. I will, yeah, so I will open the session for questions. For any other question, I have one in this field. Though I do not belong to this domain, I belong to manufacturing side and electronics and mechanical kind of work. But I did try working on data science for one of the projects that I was working on. It was very preliminary kind of work, but this still I got my doubts. So there was this thing where I was using the artificial neural network and in which we get to set the different hyperparameters, right, for getting the required, the cost function. To minimize the cost function, basically we set the different hyperparameters. So that could be based on the number of trials or number of neurons and number of hidden layers in it. Now this takes me to, like, this kind of brought a big doubt on the work that I myself was doing, that am I manipulating the data and manipulating the programming to achieve the result of lower error? Then how responsible AI is that?
Yeah.
Maybe
So
very basic question, but yeah.
This is catch 22, madam. See, the thing is, that is where you always try to go with an experiment and then try to work with the business users and then see what they feel. And accordingly, you try to tune the hyperparameters. Okay, you can try to play with the hyperparameters, but then you have to also look at the environmental conditions based on which, if you are going to be looking at the data and trying to infer the data, how you will judge and then come up with the outcome. Is it something similar to what this model is providing? That is where, if you use this auto ML tools, you can try to provide different parameters. It is supposed to be coming up with all kind of permutation combinations and provide you the kind of a report based on which you can take a call and then see, okay, this is what I'm expecting, but my model, what it is doing, and try to decide on what could be the model based on which I can move further.
All right.
But otherwise, if you are going to do manually, it is going to be a laborious task.
Yes, it is. Yeah, the benefit was that I was working with a really small data set. Probably that itself, for that
Possible.
only the result was not very efficient. But then is there a permissible range kind of a thing? I know I'm not talking in the data science parlance, but is there a permissible range in which the tuning of parameters can be done?
See, the thing is, with respect to there is no proper, to my little knowledge, there is no proper guidance on this is what you have to, because these are all depending on the hypothesis. It differs. What is the hypothesis on which you are trying to work on? If it is going to be context sensitive, you cannot really set a kind of a lay down or certain set of procedures, which is going to be problematic. That is why he said that, that bearing steel manufacturer, they try to use this particular algorithms to decide the QA output.
Exactly.
But then what happened was they did everything is okay, but then still they parallelly ran the manual QA. There were 2 times wherein the QA checked by the AI was misleading because the manual QAs, they were able to catch it. Then they found out this particular image pertinent to the errors or the kind of a defect was not proper part of the training.
Right.
So it is really, you have to do a trial, lot of training. And if the data is wrong, it's going to be problematic. And as you rightly said, enough data is going to be really improvising your performance and accuracy. Maybe you can think of the synthetic data, whether that will be more meaningful, because it is supposed to analyze the current real data and mimic similar to the real data, but don't live or just rely only on the synthetic data. But that is really being practiced in some of the industries right now, predominantly on self-driven automobile sectors, and also some of the areas wherein they want to do some automations in retail industries.
Right. Yeah. So I'm sure this is being relied upon big time, like really in many significant, very critical industries also. So there must be something definitely genuine into it. But then, yeah, depending if we are too much, if we are trying to read too much into it, it gives its own doubts. So just my perspective on that.
Yes. I understand. A lot of data to be trained, and then you have to continuously monitor the models. Some people, they just forget about that model. They try to work on something, assuming everything is okay. But I am of the opinion that you have to consistently look at the data, because the data drift, if you don't really look at the data drift, everything will go down the drain, whatever efforts you put it in.
Yeah, I understand. Shahina ma'am, any other questions do we have?
It was wonderful, actually. I have gone through a new and very elaborated things which I was still not aware of. So I was just wondering, like, okay, there are many other things which we have to learn and incorporate, and also suggest our students to take up and work with some projects related to these things. Sir, extremely good, sir. I'm really happy to have this kind of sessions. I hope you will deliver many more things to our students who are eagerly looking for this stuff, which will be really helpful for their career. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. And yeah, thank you. That's all from my side.
Yeah. I request Veena madam to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Mukti ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion of DGL. On behalf of DSI and the entire fraternity of the university, I extend my gratitude to our honorable chief guest, Sri Bhaskar Venugopalan sir, to take out his, he could make out his time from his busy schedule to share his knowledge on data trends. Thank you for giving us insights on data catalog, how the data can be observed, how the data is being observed by the industry people, and how helpful an auto ML can be. Thank you for inspiring and encouraging us with your words on this special day, sir. Special thanks to Vice Chancellor Professor KNB Murthy, sir, Chairman BITES, for guiding and supporting us to make the webinar successful. I extend my gratitude to Mr. A. Srinivas, Dean, School of Engineering, TSU, for his constant support and cooperation. I must thank the organizing team, chairpersons, HODs of all departments, all the faculties of Dayanand Sagar institutions. I also thank principals, HOD faculties of other colleges, and all the beloved students for joining the session and making this webinar more successful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.